Thank you for being here. And you can see as people are signing in, we have this little welcome slide, which has some information about one of our other programs. So the Bureau of Justice Assistance is funding this coaching program, but they also fund scholarships for certificates in restorative justice. So there's one at the University of San Diego, and we have 10 fully funded scholarship opportunities every semester to join the certificate program. And then at the Vermont Law and Graduate School, there are also fully funded scholarship for the certificate there too. So you can check out that information at ncorj.org/certificate programs to find out more and apply for those programs. All right. Well, it looks like almost everybody is here, so we will get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a webinar to talk about the National Restorative Coaching Program. And this is a free coaching program through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. So it's a grant-funded program. And we're going to start by just discussing the program a little bit, and then we'll meet some of our team members. So I'm Justine Andreo-Darling, and I am the Associate Director of the Center for Restorative Justice at the University of San Diego. And Abdul is also here. He's a member of the Center for RJ team, and we're going to be facilitating this first piece together. And then we also have Avery Arrington, who is helping us with the tech support. So thank you, Avery. And we also have part of our coaching team here. So we have Francisco, Aja, and Tarek, who are current coaches in the program. And then we have Daniela, Jill, and Regina, who are current or graduated practitioners from the program. So they'll share their experiences in this coaching program with you in a little bit. And we also have the Q&A feature enabled and the chat disabled. So throughout the presentation and everything that you're hearing today, feel free to ask questions, and we'll have time at the end of our session to try and answer all of your questions that you have. So please send them through anytime throughout. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So we'll start with the program origins. It's a new program, and we just wanted to talk about how it even got developed and why we have a coaching program. And then we'll get into why coaching is so powerful, especially in the restorative justice practice arena. And then we'll share some details about how to become a coach, a practitioner, and what that experience is like to be a part of this program. And then most importantly, we'll have a panel and hear from our coaches and practitioners about their experiences as well. So this program actually launched this last spring. So we're coming up on a year of having the program. And one of the things that we noticed in the trainings and resources and even the certificate program that we were providing is that, once people have the knowledge and experiences, sometimes we're feeling out on our own out there, and it can be a very lonely experience. And so that ongoing mentoring and support is really crucial to make sure that we're doing solid restorative work in community and with the knowledge and wisdom of other practitioners. So we started to get a high volume of requests for follow-up support. And that's what prompted a grant proposal to the BJA to ask for this ongoing support for restorative practitioners. And our goal with the coaching program is to really provide that more long-term support, and you'll understand what those details are in a few moments when we get into the details of the program. I'm going to pass it over to Abdul now to share a little bit about the coaching program in detail.
Yes, thank you so much, Justine. And I'm really glad that we have 128 participants in this webinar. So my name is Abdul, and I'm currently the GA for the Center for Restorative Justice. And through these slides, I'll be walking you through what is coaching for those who are not familiar with coaching, in addition to some information about our program. So what is coaching? I think a good question to ask is, what is not coaching, in order for you to know what coaching is. So coaching is not consulting. The coach does not give direct solutions or expert advice to the practitioners. Coaching is also not therapy. The coaches do not focus on healing or addressing psychological challenges. And coaching is also not mentoring. The coach does not necessarily share personal experiences or give direct advice or guidance to the practitioners. So what is coaching then? Coaching is more of a collaboration between the coach and the practitioner. Primarily, the coach here is facilitating the practitioner's learning, development, well-being, and performance. One of the goals of coaching, of course, is to raise self-awareness and identify choices. Through coaching, people are able to find their own solutions, develop their own skills, and change their own attitudes. And if you notice, we keep saying on and on and on, because this is what coaching is all about. We believe that the best person who can navigate their solutions is the practitioners themselves. The coach here is only doing guidance or facilitating. And for those who are interested to learn more about coaching, I highly recommend this book, The Definitive Guide to Being a Coach, by Jenny Rogers. Next slide. So who are the coaches in our program? We have coaches who are experienced in a variety of areas, including criminal justice, community community organizations, as well as K-12 and higher education. Example of that would be DAs, retired police officers, educators, community-based, non-profit leaders, and much more. And no matter how skilled or experienced the practitioner is, like we said, it's a collaboration that allow the practitioner to navigate their own challenges. It's a mutually beneficial relationship between the coach and the practitioners. Next. So for those practitioners who we admit to the National Restorative Coaching Program, we provide them with free 8 hours of one-to-one coaching. We make sure that we pair those practitioners based on their based on the priorities they put in the application, the experience, and the area of work. And of course, we allow practitioners to indicate their preference of their coach when applying. And we make sure to that they work with the best possible coach. We accept based on rolling basis, meaning that we consider applicants as we receive them. And it's very important to mention that practitioners need to be currently working or path running with a criminal justice system and or using restorative justice practices in K-12 schools, for instance, in order to be eligible for the program. Next. So there are 4 competency areas that our coaches ensure that the practitioners masters during the coaching session. These include mindset and confidence building when it comes to doing restorative justice work, also skills and techniques and knowledge in addition to well-being. And within these areas, if a practitioner has a challenge with one of these, our coaches will address that. Next. Now I will pass it to Justine.
Thank you, Abdul. We just wanted to share like where we're at currently in the program. So it's actually at capacity because we've had so many people apply so far. And so if you apply like after this webinar, just know that it's going to be a few months before we're able to place you with a coach. And it might even be longer than that, depending on, you know, how many people are applying. We have 11 coaches as a part of our team. And so they all are working with their max amount of practitioners at this point. So as people graduate from the program, we'll have further spaces. So far, there have been 13 graduates from the program. And I just wanted to share some of the evaluation feedback that we've gathered from those graduates. You can see one of the quotes here from a graduate of the different things that they really gained from the program. But in general, all of the 13 graduates strongly agreed that the coaching program significantly improved their readiness to implement restorative justice in their roles and in their work. And they all successfully met their identified coaching objectives that they set at the beginning of their coaching relationship. So that's something important to know. It's the practitioner who is setting their own goals from the beginning, things that they want to work on. And then the coach is there to support them in fulfilling those goals throughout their time together. So the relationship can last up to 6 months. And as Abdul said, it's up to 8 one-on-one, 1-hour sessions throughout that 6 months. And the greatest impacts practitioners identified from the program were acquiring a deeper understanding of restorative justice principles and skills, receiving feedback and support for facilitation skills, gaining clarity in their RJ efforts, recognizing barriers. I think that's a huge one, that sometimes we don't even realize the barriers that we're up against until someone else that has experienced the same thing can help us recognize those things. And then there's the self-advocacy that comes into play of how do I maneuver these barriers? And then also having access to new resources through that collaborative sharing process with the coach. So lots of powerful opportunities through this program. Okay, next. Thank you. Right, so I mentioned that the current lead time is approximately a month to a month and a half. So you probably won't be hearing back from us until January if you apply soon. And we also have an application for coaches to apply for the program. It's currently closed right now, but we plan to open that application back up in the new year to add additional coaches to our team. So definitely look out for that. And if you're specifically interested in becoming a coach, please, you can also email me to let me know so that I can let you know when the application opens again. And this is just the website so that you can go on and apply. NCORJ.org/coaching. The application to become a practitioner and to become a coach is both on that website when they're available. And then if you have any questions or you want to reach out, you can contact me or Abdul at the Center for RJ at sandiego.edu. And you'll have access to these slides after so that you'll have this information. And this is just acknowledging that all of the funding for this free program is coming from a Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant Award. Okay, thank you, Avery, for your help with the presentation. We're moving on to the most exciting part of this webinar. So we'll start with a panel from our coaches, and I'll start off with Aja, and then we'll go to Paco and Tarek. And this, we'll do 2 rounds of the panel. This first question is just to share a little bit about who you are and what experiences you bring to your restorative coaching role. So I'll pass it over to Aja first.
Thanks, Justine. Hello, everyone. My name is Aja Moore. I am super excited to be a part of this program. I currently serve in a district capacity in Los Angeles, California. I am the Senior Director of Restorative Practices for Bright Star Schools, and I have the pleasure and privilege of supporting our 9 schools and our 10 sites, all of our leaders in both creating, developing, and facilitating restorative justice practices for our students, families, and staff. And so a little bit about me, I used to be a school leader in the Bay Area, California. That's actually where I began my restorative justice practices journey. In Oakland, California, I fell in love with the community and in really servicing in that capacity as a mid-level leader at that point, really got to know the different needs in areas for implementation of restorative justice as a form of healing for the community and also relationship building for the community. And so after that, I moved into an official school leadership role as a dean of students for a high school in Richmond, California. I served in that capacity for about 5 years, and I had the privilege of, again, implementing, providing training, bringing restorative justice into a community where we were familiar with the phrase, but not what it looked like on the ground, and not the way that it equipped and empowered folks to really participate in their own healing process and addressing and processing and preventing harm from occurring again. And so after that, I was inspired to expand my reach, right, in a different capacity and support not just schools, but other organizations that were similar in their pursuit of creating opportunities for healing and community building through restorative practices. I did some consultation for a year, and then I realized my heart lies with K through 12 and public education, because that's where the highest needs are and oftentimes the least amount of support. So that brought me to LA, where I am now in my 3rd year as the Senior Director of RP. And again, my work is developing systems, practices all over our sites that foster a strong sense of belonging through community building practices and alternative to punitive forms of discipline, right, through restorative practices and Tier 3 intervention. I'm going to pause there and pass the talking piece to my colleague, Paco.
Thank you so much, Aja, and happy to be here and seeing everybody. My name is Francisco Carvajal. Yes, please call me Paco. It's a Mexican nickname, as some of you might know. My restorative justice journey really began before I was even born, with a lot of my work that my mom, my grandma, my great-grandma did down here in Southern California in Tijuana, Mexico. Born and raised here on Kumeyaay land, but yes, we call it San Diego now, and we call it Tijuana, Mexico. Definitely been a part of this community for a very long time. I'm a punk rocker at heart. I love music. I love traveling. I love art. But along the way, I was recruited about a decade ago to become a co-facilitator for a small little pilot restorative justice diversion program in Southern California and San Diego specifically. From there, we were able to expand the program, create steering committees, get the community voice up and going, so we can expand it little by little to zip codes where the criminal justice system has impacted our community the most. Something very specific about our program is that it's led by the people harmed, by the victims. It's centered around that harm and can we address the impact and make things as better as possible. That was still about a decade ago. Along the way, I became the program manager for that program, the then called Restorative Community Conferencing Program. And after a lot more buy-in from the district attorney's office, a lot more buy-in from law enforcement, and also community advocates, we were able to have a discussion on how can we expand this county-wide, but still ensuring that we're keeping the fidelity of the program. And the district attorney were the ones that actually provided the money for the community to expand the program. So that was around 2018 that we were able to get into those discussions along with the Sheriff's Department and also community advocates to expand the Restorative Justice Diversion Program, which then we, after some support from different universities, evaluated the program and saved taxpayers $16 million for every 200 cases that were referred over to Restorative Justice Diversion. And obviously that's why the district attorney, a lot of folks, a lot of city and county officials wanted to see what was going on. In 2020, unfortunately, COVID hit, but fortunately, we were able to have a lot of more discussions virtually, where we were able to come up with a plan on expanding the program in 2021, $12 million contract, 500 youth a year. And of course, along the way, more people on the table, that means a lot more barriers, as Justine said, a lot more outdated policies and procedures that we were able to discover at the county level that don't really align with the fidelity of restorative justice diversion. So from there, I was sworn in as commissioner for the Superior Court of California Juvenile Justice Commission, and later on as a chair. From there, I was able to discover on the other side what those barriers were and how can we make recommendations to redesign those policies and procedures so restorative justice diversion can really work and be expanded at its most authentic phase. And along the way, I was able to also create my own nonprofit, Peace, Anger, Love. I'm the executive director for Peace, Anger, Love. And something that we need a lot more now, more than ever, I believe, is capacity building and technical assistance. Of course, the Western term that we use is restorative justice, but a lot of this work is very important that we elevate the true meaning of RJ, the roots of RJ, and how it also supports the person harmed and the victims through this method. So just extremely happy to be here. I'm very excited for this program to continue to expand come in 2024 and work on each other's experiences to really build this new path of addressing harm that I believe we're there. We're almost there. Not even talking about the criminal justice system anymore. When harm occurs, how can we talk about this new path of healing and accountability? So I'll leave it there and pass it on to my friend Tariq.
Hello, thank you. So I'll start by saying that the many ways that I love hearing my name, the many different pronunciations, reflects a bit of the diverse backgrounds that I carry within my skin. So my lineage kind of comes from Jewish German roots on one branch, East German Protestant roots on another branch, Lebanese on another, Syrian and Yemeni kind of farther down the line. And so I grew up with my name being pronounced Tariq, Tarek, Tarek, and then when I got to DC, Tyreek. So, and I loved what each of those different pronunciations have represented in the different places and spaces I've been. And that's all to say that feel free to call me whatever you do, and don't be surprised if someone else calls me something differently. speaking of lineages, I guess one way to describe myself is to speak to those who I've learned from as a restorative practitioner. The farthest back would definitely be Kay Pranis and Lauren Abramson, from whom I learned circle process and community conferencing. And particularly with Dr. Abramson, got the opportunity, really the first big break, to help set up a diversion program in Prince George's County, Maryland, back in 2011. More recently, but still quite a while ago, I think Sonia Shah and Nouri Nosrat and Howard Zaire have been figures from whom I've learned, and even more recently, Jasmine Story. And in this beautiful river of a movement, of lineages, of a large family, I've been happy, blessed, and privileged to pass on these learnings in places as far spread as Scotland on some education programs there, Las Vegas with a diversion program there, and some beautiful folks there. Lots of work in the DC area where I live on both diversion programs, but quite a lot of work on school-based kind of whole school implementation of restorative justice. Charlottesville has been an incredible experience of working with and passing on restorative justice there with an incredible set of people, some of whom hail from Eastern Mennonite University, as well as some very dedicated and brave prosecutors who are willing to put themselves out on the line. Arlington, certainly Prince George's, as I mentioned, Montgomery County as well. And then through the coaching program, I've gotten to touch practitioners from Oregon to Texas, all the way to back to Jill, who's on the call here. Atlanta, I think, as well, and now Seattle is a new one. And I want to say one thing, which is that I think something that I bring into this coaching is actually the experience of having been coached, and maybe it wasn't through a formal program, but the elders that I mentioned, some of whom are younger than I am, but even outside of restorative justice, people like Marcia Blakeway and Mickey Kashtan, who've taken time to be with me when I was learning and growing, and still am, but when I was very fresh and new at it and insecure about it. And I think I hold those deeply in my memory, and I try to sort of conjure up that spirit of sharing that I feel so grateful to have received when I'm doing this work.
Wonderful. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. As you can see, our incredible coaching team has such a breadth of experience and a depth and length of experience that is really valuable to this program. As you can see, just here with the three of us, even though there's many more coaches on the team, we have representation of educators in the K through 12 system that are working on the school to prison pipeline and addressing inequities. We have representation from higher education, the education system in general, and the community, and then also from the criminal justice system and working within and in partnership with the criminal justice system. So it's really powerful to see all of this just represented in three coaches. So thank you for sharing all of that beautiful information. And the next and last question is for each of you is, what do you see as the primary impacts of coaching in this program from the people that you've been working with? And if you can highlight maybe a story that was powerful in your coaching interactions, that would also be helpful. So I'll pass the talking piece back over to Aja.
Thanks, Justine. And so I'm thinking about, or reflecting on rather, some of the powerful impacts that the practitioners who I have had the pleasure of working with in our first round of coaching, something that stands out to me is the opportunity to share space and really be in this work together, right? And so one of the practitioners that you'll have the pleasure of hearing from, Regina Platt, phenomenal RJ leader in Topeka, Kansas. A lot of our work centered around zooming out and staying grounded in the pillars of practice in RJ. And so, you know, we live in a world where there's a variety of competing needs. In the K through 12 youth sector, we have laws, we have adherences to grants. There's so many different things, right, that are pushing and that we're competing with on a daily basis. And when we're thinking about staying true and having fidelity to restorative justice, right, sometimes that means standing strong and really pushing folks and leaning into what are the needs that have to be resolved, and is the structure that we're creating, right, really supporting that and prioritizing those who have been harmed or who this was intended to be a process for, things like that. And so being able to sit in this work as a thought partner, right, as someone who has had over a decade of experience, trials and tribulations, where I was happy to support by providing those experiences and learnings from them, as well as my full-time role currently, where I'm doing this work with our K through 12 leaders. It has been inspiring. It has been healing, right, in ways to really be in that with box, right, referring to our social discipline window, being in the with box and doing the work with our fellow practitioners all throughout this nation. And so something, you know, a short anecdote that I will share is, I know Regina's going to speak more about this, but she is working on a phenomenal, I'll say, cadence of a project where she has the privilege of bringing together a variety of community leaders to process recent violence that their community has been impacted by, youth violence that their community has been impacted by, and amplifying the voice of those who've been impacted, and creating a space where folks are getting to share their experiences in ways that, because of different social stratifications, right, their voices wouldn't be amplified, or they're not sharing space on a regular basis. And so it was humbling and inspiring and really exciting, right, to support her in creating the framework for this space, making sure that we were honoring the needs and coming back to, right, the core intention of this circle space. Pushing away those competing needs that I referenced that seep up, especially when we have high stake engagement or events and activities. And I'm no stranger to that, right? Especially when you are, again, trying to adhere to state law, federal law, different forms of parameters that push against RJP sometimes. And so it was really exciting to collaborate with her on that project, to empower her and to really amplify her genius and natural skill in bringing people together and amplifying and helping them process their own needs, right, and boosting their self and social awareness in beautiful ways that we know restorative practices does. And so happy to elaborate and share more. There's so many different experiences, but at that piece, right, I want to honor time, and I'll pass the talking piece to Paco.
Thank you, Aja. I definitely ditto a lot of your comments as well. You know, right now I have prosecutors, law enforcement, you know, that I'm sharing that space with, executive directors, community advocates for national organizations. And yes, restorative practitioners as well that are going through their journey and how best to implement and hold, their values as strong as possible in a system that's been there for hundreds of years, right? So I'm going to bundle those questions all up into the larger story, I guess you can say. But Daniela, who you see here, speaking to her, naturally, it was absolutely felt. It was a great match. So definitely props to this program, the leaders of this program in creating that match. But seeing her go from a student to a volunteer to now a paid restorative practitioner in one of the areas that are really pioneer in this work over in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, right? There's so much great work happening around RJ. And here's Daniela now in it. Something that we were able to share was expand on our experiences. Mistakes are okay. We definitely have to keep that confidence up. Every circle, every case is different. We can prepare as much as possible, but it's different. And of course, with our work right now, we are trying to change the system, trying to continue shifting that mindset that's been there for hundreds of years. And it's making sure that also we have our support systems that can continue to fight and continue to redesign those policies and procedures. So that way it aligns better with our work. And working with our impact evaluators, working with the people harmed, with victim advocates, with community advocates was so important. But really it's coming down to that we're not alone, right? That you're not alone. Daniela was not alone. There were so many times, not just with Daniela, but with others, that the quote that I just decided to write down right now is, I'm dealing with that right now. So that is the best conversation that can come out of that, right? Share our experiences, what worked for me, what didn't work, maybe provide different perspectives, and to be patient still with the process. So that was really my story of a powerful experience through this coaching program. And there's difficulties sometimes, right? So we can be talking about one thing, one coaching session, and all of a sudden something else, the next coaching session is pressing for the restorative practitioner. So it's very important to also remain flexible. So for example, with the prosecutors, law enforcement, there's always something new, every single session. So what can we address? How can we make this the best time for both of us to learn the most and experience from our experiences and continue with our work moving forward? So yeah, I'll stop right there, but definitely Daniela, seeing her from student, volunteer to restorative practitioner, and now probably dealing with the things we spoke about when she was a student back a few months ago. She's dealing with that now. So yeah, thank you. And I'll pass it over to Tariq.
So I'd like to say regarding my coaching relationship with Jill, just a few words, and then I'm going to let Jill say more about how our coaching has gone. And then I have a different coaching relationship that I want to focus on. So I've really enjoyed the space that I've gotten to share with Jill. And particularly one of the themes that has come up very regularly are gender dynamics and how they show up, whether it's in a job, a recruitment process, in consultancies, in pay, given our gender backgrounds, like having the space to talk through and listen through that has been very rewarding for me. And I hope, Jill, for you as well. I know I've just felt, if I haven't said it enough, I've felt in the inside of me this sort of cheerleader voice for Jill and the work that she has been doing and the different spaces that she's been stepping into more and more. So I want to shift now to a different coaching relationship, which actually involved a team who were working in, I'm going to sort of keep this more anonymous, but we're working in an institution within a hierarchy that ostensibly was about justice and equity, that said those words, that had that mission, but who faced dynamics that didn't quite align with those values. And what I thought was precious about our time together was allowing this team to express really fully what was going on, to the extent that I think they were able to see and step a little bit outside of the fishbowl they were in, at the dynamics that they were part of and how challenging they really were. I will say that I think in working within an organization, working particularly within a hierarchy, there can be this tendency to actually internalize what is being said, what is being justified, who has the right to make these decisions, the whole sort of value system of rank and so forth. And in that space, I think we were able to sort of break free from that, sort of jostle that around and kind of look and be able to see like, wow, okay, this really isn't in line with what we're trying to do, right? There isn't this convergence between our mission, our stated values, and the way that we're functioning as a team, as an organization, particularly under this one particular supervisor. And I have to say the outcome of this is a bit mixed, because on the one hand, I think it's very affirming, I think, for anyone to understand that they're in this sort of systemic thing or in an institutional environment that is hard to navigate. And maybe the reason they're not feeling fulfilled and they're not moving forward is because of these institutional constraints. But the other hand, then it can also be kind of defeating to know that that you're hemmed in this way. But I like to think, and I got the feedback that it provided just that space to vent and to affirm and to notice, partly because of the fresh eyes and the curious ears that I was able to lend, gave the team more hope and energy to move on, and maybe also more acceptance that they may not move as much or as far as they want to.
Thank you. I so appreciated all of your stories, and it just brought to light the dynamic ways that your coaching relationships play out over time, meeting the specific challenges or needs of people right in that moment. And it speaks to what you all shared earlier about like just the sense of not being alone in it. And as I heard your stories, I was also reflecting on just the process of having a coaching relationship is restorative in itself, even if some of the topics you're talking about is not exactly, oh, how do you facilitate this circle that I'm going to do at the end of the week? Sometimes it's based on leadership dynamics or relational challenges happening in our workplaces. And all of that, even though it's not like the mechanics of RJ, it is how are we working and living out our work in a restorative way every day. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we just cannot do it alone. Like we have to do it in community. And that's what I heard from all of your stories. And it's so beautiful that we have this opportunity to connect and partner with other practitioners in the field. So I would love to turn now to our practitioners who are here, Daniela and Jill, and hopefully Regina will be joining us soon. She's coming in from another event and panel that she was a part of at the same time. So when we see her pop in, we'll say hello. But if we can start with Daniela, and we'll, just take some time to share with us about who you are, what your role in restorative justice is, and then a little bit about your coaching relationship. So how has it helped you or supplemented the work that you're already doing? And then you can pass it over to Jill after. Thank you, Daniela.
Thank you, Justine. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela. And as Paco mentioned, I had the incredible opportunity to be coached by him the last few months. And I'm currently a case manager at a nonprofit in San Francisco that's aiming to divert individuals away from the criminal justice system at the pretrial level. And I've been working with my team alongside the San Francisco District Attorney's Office to build out a new restorative community conferencing programs for individuals who've been arrested for various offenses, and including the harm parties as well. I'm also Justine's student in the USD Restorative Justice Facilitation and Leadership Program, which has provided me a really strong foundational understanding of restorative justice and has given me the opportunity to connect with RJ practitioners from all different backgrounds working in all different fields. So being able to also have Paco as my coach simultaneously has been really an incredible opportunity, because it's really allowed me to use what I've learned during class and be able to get a more personalized opportunity to ask all of the questions that have come up that have from somebody that's actually been working within the criminal justice system for a very long time. And so Paco always created this very supportive and engaging opportunity that I was able to ask all of my questions, and every single session was very different from the last. I think he always would start it out asking whatever challenges I was going through at the time with my work, and so that would kind of lead the restorative coaching session from there. And so since Paco had already had many years of working with nonprofits, he already understood my experience of the challenges that were coming up while working for a nonprofit and relying on third parties for funding. And so having to work around their schedules and their guidelines. And so he was really able to offer his experience and provide that perspective and also encouragement during those times that I felt that I had been losing patience, or, I felt a little bit defeated. He was always there to pick me right back up and share stories from his past and how he was able to implement restorative justice into the criminal justice system. So he was really able to help me, as well as my entire team that's been working on this, get through some of the roadblocks. And he was also really helpful in coaching me on how to engage with individuals that had maybe never heard of restorative justice before, or were very skeptical about restorative justice, as in my role, I'm the first point of contact with both the harm parties and the responsible parties. So he helped me through, and we were able to practice some role playing about challenging situations that might come up before or during the conferences, and which really gave me that opportunity to practice my facilitation skills and then receive feedback. There was even one session I remember where he helped me to completely plan out a graduation ceremony to celebrate individuals who had completed the program. So he helped me out with a wide range of things. And then after almost every session, he would email me with a list of resources that I could refer back to that were very helpful. So with that, I'm so grateful to Paco and this entire coaching program for the wealth of knowledge and skills shared with me. And now I feel much more confident bringing these skills into my work. And so now I will pass it along to Jill.
Yeah, thank you, Daniela. It's great to hear your story. This coaching program was perfectly timed for me. I graduated from the Center for Justice and Peace Building with a master's in art restorative justice in May of 2023. And so as I was leaving academia and looking for paid opportunities to practice restorative practices, that journey, it's been great to be in the coaching program with Tarek. I'll just give a little background of what I'm currently doing. The place that I did do my internship as part of my degree, I am doing contract work with them. That is primarily in facilitating teachings or trainings around conflict communication and culture, also some diversity, equity, and belonging and inclusion with a YWCA that's in my area, and then also some conflict and community circles for individuals who contact the organization asking for help to resolve or create community. And so, oh, and also the program doing restorative conferences between persons who are harmed and those who've done harm. That is pretty much the bread and butter of the group, the organization that I did my internship with. And then they do the trainings and other things too. So then as I've been doing those things on a contract basis, as I'm seeking full-time employment with an organization here in my community, part of the coaching program was really, really beneficial to talk with Tarek as I looked at job postings and consider different things, different roles. You know, particularly when I can think of at a school, I looked at the job description, and it was like 2 pages long, the list of activities or responsibilities for this one position. And so just to talk through it with Tarek, and it landed on me, the job description in and of itself, as not trauma informed and not restorative, because this person was being required to do what I saw almost the work of like 4 to 5 people. And so just to talk with someone who has a wealth of experience in numerous different spaces, and then also another job at a nonprofit, just, you know, the tension of much of this work in a nonprofit setting is with organizations that is not paying a sustainable wage or giving benefits. And then like who is able, you know, most of the programs can be often built on volunteer, depending on volunteers, and then that very much limiting who has the discretionary time to volunteer, to provide facilitations, to do the restorative conferences. And that is problematic for the communities that are often being served in the criminal legal system. So yeah, just talking through those systemic and then issues, and then, you know, how they impact individual situations and someone like myself trying to find employment. And just saying that I came to restorative justice work through my own journey of accountability and seeking, you know, that is what led me to study restorative practice justice and led me to practices. And so really thinking through the integrity behind integrating restorative paradigm into my own life, and how does this look as trying to transform systems that are often doing a lot of harm in and of themselves. So yeah, just looking here. Yeah, I will say one thing too, in our coaching times, it was very, very helpful to have Tarek look at a few designs that I did for with circles with different communities, Planned Parenthood being one, and another. So just to have another practitioner look at it and give feedback, ideas around prompts, very, 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 very beneficial, and just really appreciated, yeah, that relationship to have it and a space to do such things. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Daniela, for sharing a little bit about your experiences and for being so detailed in the types of things that your coach helped you with. I'm hoping that as people heard your stories, it was resonating like, oh yeah, that's what I need help with, or that's exactly what I'm working on. Because I know that we all have many things in common in this work. So thank you for that detailed experience. And Regina, I'm hoping will join us anytime now. And when she does, we can give her some space to share her experiences as well. And in the meantime, I've been trying to answer the questions that have been coming through just in the question and answer space. But if there's anyone who needs more clarification on things that I've answered, let me know. There's also just one unanswered question so far that was coming from an anonymous attendee, specifically for Paco. It was coming in the first time that you shared and introduced yourself, Paco. And the comment says, "That's incredible. I'm working with our county SC judge and other county agencies on learning about TJ and RJ and how it would benefit our community. Can you provide more info on what you just shared?" Francisco, if you remember what you just shared.
No, yeah, definitely. I'm actually creating something that's a little more detailed because what the community has been, I've just been I've opened the door, right, to allow community in. And community is really the ones that have put forth a lot of the process the past decade. But well, I am creating something that is a little more detailed from pretty much 2012, from a very tiny organization advocacy to provide an alternative to incarceration for young people. And then all of a sudden the pilot RJD to then, obviously my organization, Peace, Anger, Love. I know you're anonymous, but if you don't mind somehow sending information over to Justine or just going to peaceangerlove.org and reaching out to me there, I'm going to include what I create with that information on an info session. So that way we can just put that knowledge out there as well. Like I mentioned, I think at least with my work with the community that has been my support system, we are literally seeing a different path now to addressing harm. That includes the schools and the districts a lot. So we've had to work very close with the school districts and the different community schools, because we want them to address situations as they're arising without contacting law enforcement. And that's really where we want everything to be focused. And obviously at home and nonprofits, providing support to families and whatnot. But I can honestly say that there's this new path that's being created that's separate from the criminal justice on addressing harm. And what's important there is also gathering all that information, all the resources, the impact evaluations, so we can show that there is this new path. And being led by the people harmed of crime, the responsible parties, the mentors, the community, the businesses themselves of the community. Yeah, so I'll share that with you if you're able to share your contact information with us.
Thank you. And after relooking at the questions, I just wanted to share verbally again about who is eligible for the coaching program as a practitioner. So what we would consider a practitioner is someone that already has some knowledge and experience about restorative justice. So this coaching program isn't really going to be as helpful for people that are right at the beginning of their restorative journey, like just wanting to learn about it for the first time. I think one of the certificate programs or some knowledge building would be more helpful at that point. And then this coaching program is really for people who have been in the work for a bit of time, are bumping up against challenges, and want a partner that has been in it maybe even a little bit longer. But also, I was thinking about this coaching program, even for myself, and how powerful it is. Yes, I've been in the restorative field for, 15 years and am also a coach, but I could use a coach. Like, I think we could all use a support network and a coach, right? So, all are welcome. And the only other thing I'll say is that because this is Bureau of Justice Assistance grant funded, their goal is really to transform the criminal justice system. So our first priority is to work with people that want to be coached that are actually in the criminal justice system. So working in district attorneys' offices, public defenders' offices, probation, police officers, anyone within the system, or with community organizations that are partnering very closely with the criminal justice system to provide restorative justice processes in conjunction with the system. And then we know we can make a case pretty much for all of us being in the transformation of the criminal justice system, because any good, powerful, beautiful work that we're doing out there in the community or in education is working to diminish the criminal justice system, but it's not as direct, right? So definitely, if you think this is the right program for you, please feel free to apply, and just know that if we get a lot of applications, we'll mostly only be able to serve the people directly in the criminal justice system or partnering very closely with it, but we might have a few extra spots for those that are more higher ed or community based, depending on who applies. So just wanted to mention that. And also, if there's any of our coaching team or practitioners, anyone that has other thoughts or things that you would like to share here at the end, I see a few more questions coming in, so I'll look at those.
It's a question regarding collaboration with tribal wellness courts and tribal police departments, more for if the DOJ is partnering also and getting the word out for the coaching program. We know with restorative justice diversion programs, that is very important as well. So always being open and doing presentations and providing a community referral process for tribal courts and also the tribal police departments here in San Diego. Specifically, we will be having a meeting actually in the new year. One of our board members is a part of a tribal community that needs a lot of support, Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Justine?
Paco. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing. It looks like our final practitioner may not be able, hopefully she can jam in, but I just wanted to amplify something. So for our K through 12 and also youth leaders, right? I want to honor nonprofit folks who are present as well. Something that this coaching program, making the direct connection, right? When we're talking about the school to prison pipeline and how restorative practices in schools or in the youth sector really works to combat that. This coaching program is an opportunity to really be thought partners and share resources, right? When we are talking about high level intervention that is an official alternative to suspension and recommendations for expulsions. And so I have found, right, as a school leader and a youth leader myself, a lot of times that's what we're trying to figure out. How do we, not consider alternative placement? How do we truly bring everyone together so that we can address the needs that this student has, right, or this young person has, without removing them from the community, which is where we know the data that leads to a higher chance that that student is going to be incarcerated throughout their lifetime. And so I don't feel like I amplified that as much as I could have and wanted to. And I just want to make sure that our youth folks here, right, whether it's in schools, whether it is in the nonprofit sector, that there are opportunities to combat the school to prison pipeline and really engage in this work in the conflict resolution skill building and community building, right, through restorative practices in those areas that then carry over to preventing the incarceration and the engagement in these really punitive processes. All right. I hope that made sense and to our youth workers. And yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm so glad you shared that. I also see one other question that hasn't been answered yet from Nina about the list of attendees, interest in the breadth and geography of the attendees. So I can share just in general about the breadth of the coaching program, which I think is probably reflected here too. Our coaches are across the nation and practitioners are also across the nation. So for this program, it is a mostly like on Zoom or on phone call kind of coaching relationship, because everyone is not necessarily in the same place and we're reaching across the whole United States. So we definitely have people signed in here today from all over the United States. It isn't available for international participants. We have had a few people apply, but because it's from the BJA, they're looking at transforming the criminal justice system here in the United States specifically. So I'm hoping with time we can, expand the coaching opportunity beyond like the specific focus right now, but that's where it is currently. And then the second question was about how much people can charge to help with a restorative process, and that you recently hired a restorative program and they charge $7,500. I think there's a very large range. As some have mentioned today, some programs are volunteer based, so they can be free. I personally don't advocate for that, as I think Jill was kind of alluding to as well, because it's not a very equitable experience. And the other thing is that in restorative justice, it takes a lot of time and skill, right? So we want to pay people a living wage to do transformational work in our communities. I think that's really important, to be paid for this work. And so I'm not sure what went into that $7,500, but I know that to do a high level case like that takes substantial time, hours and hours and hours. And it seems like a bargain for $7,000. A lot of times also, I've seen comparisons of how much it costs to uphold the criminal justice system for a youth or one person for, say, a year. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on where you are in the country. It kind of shifts a little bit. Where when we're talking about having a restorative intervention, no matter how much we charge, it's never going to be even close to that. So the resources to be restorative tend to be a lot less than it takes to uphold the criminal justice system as it is. So I know that wasn't a full answer to your question, but there's lots of moving pieces and parts. So thank you for that question. And I think we're close to the end of our time. I don't see any other questions. We are holding Regina's energy in our hearts and hoping she's okay for wherever she is. And I just want to say another big thank you to all of you who have taken the time out of your day to learn about this program, and for our coaches and our practitioners for being here and sharing their experiences and wisdom. Thank you so much. And we hope to see some of you apply to this program, and please do reach out with any other questions or thoughts that you have. Thank you all for coming.